When I walked in and everyone went silent, I felt it before anyone said a word. Not fear, not anger, just that heavy feeling in the chest, the kind that tells you something has already broken, even if you do not know what yet. I remember standing there, my hand still on the door handle. The room felt colder than it should have. No one was smiling. No one was moving. Then my father cleared his throat. "We need to talk," he said. His voice was calm, too calm. And in that moment, I knew my life was about to change in a way I could not undo. Before I tell you what happened that day, I need to take you back. A single choice can change your life forever. Today, I'm sharing how betrayal forced me to choose myself when no one else would. Before the first chapter unfolds, please subscribe and hit like to help us reach others who might need to hear this. I'd love to know where you're watching from tonight. Leave your city name in the comments so I can welcome you personally. And now, the story begins. Because stories like this do not begin with silence, they begin with love, with small moments, with good intentions, and sometimes with quiet mistakes no one notices until it is too late. I was not a bad person. I want to say that first, not to defend myself, but to be honest. I loved my family. I worked hard. I believed I was doing my best. But I also believed something else. I believed I was always right, and that belief cost me more than I ever imagined. I grew up in a house where voices were soft, but rules were strong. My father was a quiet man. He did not shout. He did not hit. But when he spoke, you listened. My mother was gentle, always cleaning, always cooking, always fixing things before anyone noticed they were broken. They taught me values, respect, responsibility, family first, and I carried those words with me my entire life, or at least I thought I did. When my son was born, I held him in my arms and promised myself something. I promised I would protect him, guide him, teach him how to live the right way. I did not realize then that protection can slowly turn into control. I did not realize that guidance can become pressure. And I did not realize that love, when mixed with pride, can quietly suffocate the people you care about most. My son grew up fast. He was kind, quiet, the kind of boy who listened more than he spoke. He respected me, and I liked that. I liked being needed. I liked being asked for advice. I liked feeling important. When he brought home the woman he wanted to marry, I smiled. She was polite, soft-spoken, always saying "yes, sir" and "thank you." I thought she was perfect. What I really meant was she did not challenge me. After the wedding, they moved into a small place nearby. I visited often. Too often, maybe. I would comment on how the house was kept, how food was cooked, how my son handled things. I told myself I was helping, but help that is not asked for can feel like judgment. I see that now. I did not see it then. At first, my daughter-in-law smiled through everything. She listened, she nodded, she stayed quiet, and I mistook her silence for agreement. There were moments, small ones, when I noticed something in her eyes. A pause, a tight breath, a forced smile. But I ignored it, because silence was easier than truth. The first real change came quietly. My son stopped calling as much. When I visited, conversations felt shorter. Laughter did not last long. I told myself they were busy. I told myself it was normal. But deep down, something felt off, like a door slowly closing while you're still in the room. One evening, I stopped by without calling. The house was quiet. Too quiet. When my daughter-in-law opened the door, she looked surprised. Not happy surprised, just caught. She invited me in, but her hands were shaking. The kitchen smelled like tea that had gone cold. My son was not home yet. We sat across from each other, silence between us like a table no one wanted to clear. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," I said. "No," she replied quickly. "You're fine." But her eyes did not meet mine. I noticed then how tired she looked. Dark circles, slower movements, a heaviness in her shoulders. For the first time, I wondered if maybe I had been wrong about her. Not weak, just overwhelmed. I wanted to say something kind, but instead I said something familiar. I said, "You should rest more. You look worn out." She nodded, but I saw it. That small crack, the one you only see when someone is trying very hard not to cry. That night, I went home uneasy. I told myself I would give them space, but habits don't change overnight, and neither does pride. Weeks later, everything broke. Not loudly, not with shouting, but with words spoken very calmly. I arrived one afternoon to find my daughter-in-law waiting for me. My son was at work. She stood straight, hands folded. Her voice did not shake. "I need to say something," she said. I smiled. "Of course," I replied. She took a deep breath. "I need you to stop coming here without calling. I need space. We need space." The words were gentle, but they hit hard. I felt something rise in me. Not anger, something worse. Offense. "I'm family," I said. "I don't need permission." She nodded slowly. "I know," she said, "but I'm drowning." That word stayed with me. Drowning. Then she said the sentence I never thought I would hear. "I need you to step back, please." I smiled, not because I was calm, but because I did not want her to see how deeply those words hurt. "I understand," I said, but I did not. Not really. That night, I told my son everything, or at least my version of everything. I told him she was being disrespectful. I told him she was pushing me away. I told him I was only trying to help. He listened quietly, too quietly, and that silence, it was the same silence I would hear again later, the silence before everything fell apart. After that conversation, something shifted inside me. Not loudly, not all at once. It was like a slow change in the air, the way a room feels different after someone leaves and takes their warmth with them. I told myself I would respect her request. I told myself I would step back. But deep inside, I felt pushed aside, unneeded, unwelcome, and that feeling sat heavy in my chest. Days passed, then weeks. My son called less. When he did, his voice felt careful, like he was choosing every word before saying it. "How are you?" I would ask. "I'm fine," he would reply, but it did not sound fine. It sounded tired. I wanted to fix it, but instead of asking how, I assumed I already knew. I assumed she was changing him, pulling him away, turning him against his own family. That thought hurt more than anything else, because if that was true, then I was losing my son. One afternoon, my father came to visit me. He sat across from me the way he always had, straight-backed, hands folded. He listened as I spoke. I told him everything, or again, my version of everything. He did not interrupt. When I finished, he nodded slowly. Then he said something that stayed with me. "Sometimes," he said, "we believe love means staying close, but sometimes love means stepping away." I nodded, but I didn't really hear him. Soon after, I heard they were having problems, small arguments, long silences. My son did not say much, but I could tell something was wrong, and part of me felt justified. I told myself, see, I was right. That thought brought comfort and shame. One evening, my son came to my house alone. He looked exhausted. He sat down and stared at the floor. We did not speak for a long moment. "She feels like you don't respect her," he finally said. His voice was quiet, not accusing, just honest. I felt my chest tighten. "I raised you better than this," I replied. "I never meant harm." "I know," he said, "but intentions don't erase pain." That sentence landed softly, but it landed deep. After he left, I sat alone in the quiet. I replayed everything in my head. Every visit, every comment, every moment I thought I was helping. For the first time, I asked myself something uncomfortable. What if I was wrong? But admitting that felt like losing myself. So instead, I held on to what felt familiar: control, certainty, pride. Family gatherings became rare. When they did happen, the air felt tight. Conversations stayed on the surface. No one laughed freely. Everyone avoided eye contact. I noticed my daughter-in-law barely spoke. When she did, her words were careful. Her smile looked practiced, like someone playing a role they never auditioned for. One night during dinner, she excused herself early. The room felt heavier after she left. My son pushed food around his plate. I wanted to say something, anything, but I didn't. Later that week, I received a message. It was from her. Just a few lines. She said she needed peace. She said she was tired. She said she did not want conflict. She asked me again, gently, to give them space. I read the message several times. Each time, my chest tightened. I felt dismissed, like my role had been erased. I did not reply. Silence felt easier than humility. Weeks turned into months, and distance grew where closeness once lived. I missed my son more than I admitted. I missed the sound of his footsteps, his laughter, the way he used to look at me for approval. Now, when we spoke, his voice felt distant, as if he was standing on the other side of a closed door. Then came the invitation, a family meeting, at my parents' house. No details, just a request that everyone be there. My stomach tightened when I read it. Something told me this was not a normal gathering. Something important was coming. On the day of the meeting, I arrived early. The house looked the same as always, but it felt different, like it was holding its breath. When my son and his wife arrived, they did not sit near me. They sat together, close, hands touching, and in that small gesture, I saw something I had not noticed before: unity. My father cleared his throat. He looked around the room. Then he spoke. "We are here because silence has grown too loud," he said. No one spoke. He turned to me. "You raised your son with love, but love must grow, or it becomes a cage." I felt something stir inside me. Fear. Then my daughter-in-law spoke. Her voice was calm, but strong. "I have tried to be respectful. I have tried to be patient, but I'm disappearing." Her words were gentle, but they cut deep. She spoke of feeling watched, judged, corrected. She spoke of losing her voice. I wanted to interrupt, to defend myself, but my father raised his hand. "Listen," he said. So I did, and for the first time I heard her, not as someone challenging me, but as someone hurting. By the time she finished, the room was silent, heavy, honest. My son looked at me, not angry, not cold, just tired. He said, "I need you to let me live my life. I need you to trust me." That's when I realized something painful. I had never truly trusted him. I had only guided him, corrected him, steered him, and now I was paying the price. But the hardest moment was yet to come, because as heavy as that conversation was, it was not the moment that broke me. That came later, quietly, unexpectedly. After that family meeting, nothing felt settled. On the outside, it looked like peace. No raised voices, no harsh words. But inside me, everything was unsettled. It felt like someone had gently lifted a mirror and placed it in front of my face, and I did not like what I saw. For days, I replayed that evening in my mind. Her words, my son's tired eyes, my father's quiet disappointment. I told myself I needed time to think, time to adjust. But time does not soften pride. It only gives it more space to grow. I kept my distance like they asked. No visits, no advice, no sudden appearances. On the surface, I was doing everything right, but inside, I felt empty, like my purpose had been taken away without warning. I stopped cooking proper meals, stopped turning on the television. Even the ticking clock began to bother me. Silence has a sound when it stays too long. My son did not call. I told myself it was because he was busy, but deep down, I knew something else was happening. He was choosing peace, and peace no longer included me. One afternoon, I saw them from a distance. They were walking together, slowly, laughing softly. Something about the way they leaned toward each other stopped me. They looked lighter, and that hurt more than any argument ever could. I realized then that my absence had given them something I never had: space to breathe. That night, I could not sleep. I kept hearing my daughter-in-law's voice. "I am disappearing." I wondered how long she had felt that way, how many times she swallowed words just to keep harmony, how many nights she cried quietly so my son would not hear. For the first time, I asked myself a hard question. What if the problem was not her? But before I could answer that, life made the decision for me. It happened on a rainy evening, the kind where the sky feels heavy and the streets shine with reflection. My phone rang. It was my father. "Come over," he said. His voice was calm, but it carried weight. I did not ask why. Something in me already knew. When I arrived, the lights were on. All of them. That alone told me this was serious. I walked in, and that was when it happened. When I walked in, everyone went silent. My son, his wife, my mother, my father. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. I stood there, confused. My heart began to race. Then my father spoke. "We need to talk," he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes were sad. I sat down slowly. No one offered me tea. No one smiled. That silence felt different from all the others before. This one felt final. My father took a deep breath. Then he spoke words I was not prepared to hear. "Your daughter-in-law is leaving," he said. The room tilted. Not physically, emotionally. "She needs time away," he continued. "She has reached a breaking point." I turned to my son. He could not look at me. His hands were clasped tightly together. "She's not leaving me," he said quietly. "She's leaving the situation." That word again, situation. I wanted to speak, to say something, but my throat felt tight. "She's been carrying too much," my father said, and we all failed to see it. I felt something crack inside me. Not anger, not denial, fear. I realized then that this was not about space anymore. This was about survival. My daughter-in-law finally spoke. Her voice was calm, almost peaceful. "I don't hate you," she said, "but I lost myself." Her words were not sharp, they were honest, and honesty can hurt more than blame. "I need to remember who I am," she continued, "and I can't do that here." I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I saw how much she had changed. She looked older, tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. My son spoke next. His voice shook slightly. "I should have protected her sooner. That's on me." That was when I felt it, that deep, sinking realization. This was not something I could fix with advice, or authority, or good intentions. I had crossed a line I didn't even know existed. I tried to speak, but when I opened my mouth, no words came out, just breath. My father stood up slowly. He placed a hand on my shoulder. "This is the moment," he said, quietly, "where you decide who you want to be next." Those words stayed with me. Who I want to be next. Because the truth was painful. The person I had been had caused harm. Not intentionally, but deeply. That night, they left together. My son and his wife. To stay somewhere else. To breathe. To heal. I watched them walk out. No shouting, no slammed doors. Just footsteps fading into the rain. I stayed behind. Alone. With my thoughts. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly unnecessary. Days passed. Then weeks. No calls, no messages, just silence. At first, I waited. I told myself they would come back, that things would return to normal. But normal was gone, and I had to face that. One afternoon, my father visited me again. He sat quietly, just like always. You cannot demand a place in someone's life. You can only earn it. That sentence changed something inside me. I began to write. Letters. Not messages. Real letters. I did not defend myself. I did not explain. I did not justify. I apologized for interrupting, for controlling, for not listening. I told her I saw her now, not as a problem, but as a person. I did not expect forgiveness. I only wanted honesty. Weeks later, I received a reply. Just one page, simple handwriting. She thanked me. She said she needed time. She said healing doesn't follow schedules. But she also said something else. Thank you for finally hearing me. I held that letter for a long time, and for the first time in months, I cried. Not from loss, but from understanding. I didn't know what would happen next, if they would come back, if things would ever be the same. But I knew one thing. I had changed, and sometimes that is the beginning of repair, not the end. After I sent that letter, I stopped waiting for answers. Not because I stopped caring, but because I finally understood that healing cannot be rushed. Some wounds need quiet, some need distance, and some need time without expectations. I began to change my days, not in big ways, in small, honest ones. I woke up earlier, I walked more, I learned how to sit with silence instead of fighting it. I noticed things I had ignored for years. The sound of birds outside, the way sunlight moves across the floor, the comfort of a simple meal eaten slowly. For the first time, my life was not centered around correcting others. It was centered around understanding myself. I thought often about my daughter-in-law, not with resentment, not with blame, but with curiosity. I wondered what kind of person she had been before she felt the need to shrink herself, what dreams she had put away to keep peace. I also thought about my son, how heavy it must have been for him, being pulled between loyalty and love, between respect for his parents and protection for his wife. I realized how unfair that position was, and how long I had kept him there. One afternoon, my father called me. He asked how I was doing. I told him the truth. I am learning, I said. He was quiet for a moment. Then he replied, "That is enough for now." Weeks later, my son visited me alone. He stood at the door for a moment before coming in. He looked older, not tired, just more serious. We sat in the living room, the same one where I once felt powerful. Now it felt humbler. "I read your letter," he said. I nodded. "I didn't write it to change anything," I replied. "I wrote it because it was true." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said something I will never forget. "That was the first time I felt like you saw her." That sentence stayed with me, because seeing someone is not the same as loving them. Seeing takes effort, humility, listening without planning a response. We spoke quietly, not about the past, not about blame, just about life, work, weather, small things. It felt like learning how to talk again. Before he left, he paused at the door. "She's doing better," he said. "She's breathing again." I nodded. That was enough. Months passed. No sudden changes, no dramatic reunions, just slow, steady healing. Then one day I received another message from her. She asked if we could meet, just the two of us. My hands shook as I read it, not from fear, from respect. We met at a small cafe, neutral ground, soft light, no history on the walls. She arrived first. When I walked in, she stood up. We did not hug. We smiled. That felt right. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for giving me space." I nodded.
I wanted to thank you, I replied, for telling me the truth. We spoke for a long time, not about rules, not about boundaries, but about life, about who we were before roles defined us. I listened, really listened, and for the first time I did not feel the need to fix anything. When we stood to leave, she hesitated. Then she said, "We can try again, slowly." I nodded. "Slow is good," I said. That night I sat alone again, but this time the silence felt different, not empty, peaceful. I realized then that love does not mean holding tight, it means holding gently, and sometimes letting go is the strongest form of care. I am still learning. I still catch myself wanting to step in, to advise, to control, but now I pause. I ask myself a question my father once asked me: is this love or is this fear? Most days, that question guides me, and when it doesn't, I return to silence, to listening, to patience. I do not know what the future holds, but I know who I want to be in it. Someone who listens, someone who respects, someone who understands that love grows best when it has room.
Time has a quiet way of settling things, not by erasing the past, but by softening its sharp edges. When I look back now, I do not see villains or heroes. I see people who loved deeply and misunderstood each other slowly, and I see myself clearly for the first time. I used to believe being a parent meant knowing best, that experience gave me authority, that love gave me permission. But age does not always bring wisdom. Sometimes it only brings habits, and habits, when left unchecked, can hurt the people closest to us. These days, my relationship with my son is quieter. We do not speak every day. We do not need to. When we do talk, there is honesty, there is space, there is trust. With my daughter-in-law, the connection is still growing, slowly, carefully, like something fragile that deserves patience. We meet sometimes, we talk, we laugh gently, and I listen more than I speak. I no longer give advice unless it is asked for, and even then I choose my words carefully, because words, once spoken, cannot be taken back, but silence, when used with care, can heal. I have learned that respect is not about obedience. It is about recognizing another person's inner world, their fears, their limits, their need to feel safe. There were many moments when I thought I was losing my family, but the truth was simpler. I was being asked to grow, and growth is often uncomfortable. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment, when I walked into the room and everyone went silent. At the time, it felt like rejection, like judgment, like the end. Now I understand. That silence was not meant to push me away, it was meant to wake me up. We often fear difficult conversations. We avoid them. We delay them. But sometimes silence speaks because words have failed for too long. I am grateful for that silence now, because it taught me something I could not learn any other way, that love without listening is incomplete. I share this story not to place blame, not to seek sympathy, but to offer a quiet reminder. If you love someone, listen to them, not just to reply, but to understand. If someone asks for space, do not see it as rejection. See it as trust. Trust that the relationship matters enough to protect it. And if you realize one day that you have caused pain without meaning to, do not turn away. Do not defend. Do not explain. Sit with it. Learn from it. Apologize honestly, and then allow time to do what it does best. I am still learning how to love in ways that leave room. Room for growth. Room for mistakes.
room for forgiveness. The family I have today is not the one I imagined years ago, but it is real, it is peaceful, and it is built on understanding rather than control. And if there is one lesson I carry forward, it is this: love does not mean holding on tighter when someone pulls away. Sometimes love means opening your hands and trusting they will return when they are ready. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched something in you, hold that feeling gently. And remember, the quiet moments often teach us the loudest lessons.